Hi, and welcome to the 5th episode of Interview with a Greyhead. This week I'm in conversation with Iain Byers. Iain has had an esteemed career, predominantly within PwC, PriceWaterhouseCoopers. Iain and I met back in the 90s, mid to late 90s, when we both worked for Coopers and Lybrand, who then merged with PriceWaterhouse to become PwC. Iain was always a character, and everyone always recognised Iain first because Iain had this trademark of wearing a kilt to work, whether that's in the Scottish office, in any of the Scottish offices, predominantly Edinburgh and Glasgow, or even in the London office. Everyone always recognised Iain in his kilt. I hope you enjoy the conversation. It was great to reconnect with Iain and to listen to his views on careers. There we go. So you should have just been told we're recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right, so one. Hi, Iain. Hi, how are you? Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, good. Yeah. Iain, thanks for doing this series. As you know, the idea around it is the sort of tongue-in-cheek around Greyheads. Experienced people like yourself who have been there, done that, met many people throughout their career, managed people and managed certain situations. And you and I met back in the late 90s, originally at Coopers and Lybrand, which then became PwC. Yeah. And you had a much more extensive career with them than what I did. But you were a global program manager, I think.
Yes.
Can you just give a bit of introduction of who you are and a bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Sure. Well, I'd like to roll it back. I mean, I started in computers in 1965.
Right, okay.
You believe, right? And retired 50 years later.
Right. So
you know, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and spent a lot of time on program management latterly, but at heart, I'm a developer.
Right, okay.
You know, so I was always a programmer. And the reason I got into computing in the first place was, I suppose it was twofold. I had a maths tutor, a guy called Dr. Newson, who reckoned I had a computer brain and I should, you know, go and try and get into computers.
Mm.
Whereas my father wanted me to be a chartered accountant, and there is no way I was going to be a chartered accountant. So I'd met my wife when I was 14, and I just wanted to get married. And that was it, pure and simple. Computing gave me the ability to earn reasonable amounts of money reasonably quickly. And so I got married at 21.
Right.
So that was where it started.
That's where it all started. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And the majority of the time, I said you had a long term with PwC, Coopers and Lybrand, and then PriceWaterhouseCoopers. Yeah. How long were you there for?
Well over 20 years in various guises.
Yeah.
It was quite strange because I got made redundant from PwC. And so we wandered off, Marley and I, and wandered around the world and did stuff. And then I saw a job advertised for a notes manager.
Okay.
I thought I could do that. Lo and behold, it's PwC. So I went back in as a contractor. And eventually made me go permanent. And I think I was there for another, 10 years or so before I retired.
Before you retired from there. Yeah. And it's interesting, PwC is, people should be aware that they're one of the biggest professional services companies in the world, and the diversity across the board was immense. You know, it really was immense, and we both had good insight into that. Yeah. So anyway, right, let's jump into the questions then. Right, number one, for some people, they plan their careers. Maybe they go to uni and they're selecting a profession. And what I mean by that is such like a doctor, for example. Somebody will say, I'm going to be a doctor, and they go into a very specific learning for that. And that's a 7 or 8 year learning period for them to become a doctor. And that's very specific. For others, though, they quite often go to uni and they've ended up taking a different path to what they originally learnt at uni. Yeah. What was it about you? Did you ever plan your career, or did you just sort of fall into it? And in reflection, what is the advice that you would give on planning your career?
I suppose in one breath you could say I fell into it because, you know, there was stuff that was driving me that made me want to earn money. And the way of doing the earning of the money was getting into computers.
Right.
So when I started in '65, it was very unusual.
Right. Okay.
It was odd. I mean, the guy that first taught me, I learned French programming, would you believe? Right?
All right. Okay.
The guy that taught me was a Greek tutor, right? So
right. A Greek tutor teaching you French programming.
There you go. And from then, I just carried on moving through the ranks, as it were, but always making certain that I was doing what I wanted to do. I was very focused that I wasn't going to be diverted.
Right. Okay.
Going to keep on trucking. Yeah.
But the original point of you had certain personal stuff that you wanted to do. You wanted to get married and start a life.
Yeah, exactly.
And you saw computers as a way of doing that, in a sense of unusualness, and probably providing a higher salary than whatever else. Yeah. Right. Okay. But you were conscious about that around having planned and wanted to do that. Yeah. Okay. What's your views towards mentorship throughout your career? Have you had a mentor?
I did think about this long and hard, because I think I probably had a couple of mentors. I mean, I think my first mentor was a guy called Jim Kerr.
Okay.
He was the programming manager in Upper Clay Shipbuilders when the yards all merged. And Jimmy was a very kind of straight-talking Glaswegian. You know,
right.
Very straight-talking, if you understand.
Yeah.
And so Jim and I sparked quite a lot, because I'm also an aggressive Glaswegian.
Yeah.
But the guy led me through.
Okay.
And then later on, I wandered off and joined ICL. And I came back to Jimmy when he was running Scottish Computer Services, owned by Yarrows at the time. And I was retrained as a UNIVAC systems programmer. And Jimmy was fundamental in supporting me in doing that.
Right, okay.
He was a definite mentor. I suppose the other mentor is Aileen Stewart.
All right, okay. Yeah, I remember the name, definitely. Aileen,
she recruited me to be a global project manager. And I suppose I was feeling quite low because of the way PwC had developed and a new tax IT manager, IT partner. And Aileen came in and said, look, forget that, just come and work with me. And I had a tremendous couple of years of global IT, you know, wandering the world in my kilt. Yeah. Doing stuff.
And the round of Jim and Eileen, were they conscious to you? Did you sit there and think, who do I need? I need a mentor, I'm going to go with him. Or was it a natural progression in a sense of the relationship that you had? Yeah. Okay. And what about mentorship yourself? Have you ever mentored anybody?
Well, I suppose not directly. I think I had people that worked for me and that, you know, formed part of my team. Yeah. And being part of my team meant that I was instilling in them my values, my style of management, and all that kind of good stuff. So I don't think I did it directly, but I think indirectly, my team, if you like, were my mentees. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So nobody deliberately came up to you and said, Iain, will you be my No. Okay. No, that's absolutely fine. Well, following on from that then about instilling your values, the next question is, throughout your professional life, what values did you live by? And did you consciously and actively live by them? Or is it just something, again, it's natural, what's happened, it's instilled with you? I think my main value is there's no I in team. So yeah, if you've got a team, they get the credit for stuff that goes well, and you get the blame for stuff that goes wrong. And that's been my principle all the way through. Right, so, okay. Support your team in everything that you do, and if it goes wrong, it's your fault. Okay, so take the blame for that. Yeah, fair enough. All right, okay. How would you describe, I'm quite looking forward to seeing your answer on this one, how would you describe your style, your personal brand? Now, you had a very unique personal brand, so I know that. Yeah. So just for the viewers out there, let me add into this. Every time you saw Iain in the office, he was fully kitted in the kilt, in the Scottish dress, head to toe, whether that was in the Edinburgh office or in the London office. I'm actually trying to think of a time where I saw you not within a kilt, or within a suit, or, you know, shirt and tie, you know, and
I can't recall, actually. I actually can't recall. So that's added to your personal brand. And the reason I'm saying that is something I do work with my clients around personal branding. Can you just delve into your psyche for that one, please?
Well, I think one of the reasons I wore the kilt is that the Global Technology Services, the group that ran technology services at PwC, were extremely English and were hated throughout the world.
Right.
And one of the reasons I wore the kilt wherever I went is you cannot mistake me for one of these guys.
Right. Okay.
It was, I suppose it was better. And people trust the Scots more than they trust the English.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the reason as well, because it meant I had an easier task when I was in Budapest or in Rome or wherever, and to get people to, do what I wanted.
To do what you want.
Banging the table.
I suppose it breaks the barriers slightly. So who's this guy? And the smile. Yeah. People smiled all the time when they saw you. So yeah. Okay. So following on from that then is well, actually, before we follow on to that, but your style, what is your style of leadership?
Well, it's the encompassing style. It's the team, and I lead the team from the front. And as I said earlier on, if it goes well, they get the credit. If it goes badly, I'll take the blame.
Yeah.
So that's always been my style. It's always been encompassing. I do get aggressive. I'm a Glaswegian when all said that. So I'm quite liable to rip the throat out of somebody privately, but I wouldn't do it in front of anybody else.
Right. Okay. So I mean, knowing who the programs that you've done and stuff, you were in some big meetings. You'd have a lot of bigwigs in those meetings. What kind of style did you approach? What was your? How did you approach that? How do you approach those? When you've got different cultures, different seniorities, and different personas and different.
Yes.
You've got very different personas in the room. Yeah. How did you manage that?
I think I just managed it by being myself. So I mean, I was always the guy that called a spade a shovel. So when there was no dubiety. If I felt something needed to be done, I would tell them it needed to be done. If I felt something was going badly, I would tell them it was going badly.
Okay.
And there was a number of instances where things got very, very sparky. But that's life. That's
life. But you were honest to your you were honest. A key value there was honesty. Is what I'm hearing, and you said how it was. Yeah. Cool. All right. And what was the hard? Well, sorry, I've just missed a question. How important is it for someone to have a brand, a personal brand?
I think it makes it easier to get stuff done.
Yeah, okay.
You're being, wishy-washy, and it then becomes too autocratic.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. I think to me that I am the brand and the brand is me, if you like. So you take what you get from me. But I'll always have you back.
But so your message there is it is important to have to think about to have something, whatever your angle may be, is to have a brand, is to be the person out there. Yeah. Yes. Good. All right. Okay. What was the hardest time in your career, and what did you learn from that?
Let's see what I wrote down. I suppose, it's obvious when you think about it. When global IT blew up and I get made redundant, that was in some ways the best and worst of times, because the best of times meant I got a substantial payoff and we could wander around the world doing what we wanted to do. The downside was at some point I was going to have to try and go back to work.
Yeah.
At that time I'd be in my late 50s, just turning 60.
Yeah.
So it was always difficult to think about how I'm going to get a job.
It's challenging. You have fears around that at that age. Yeah.
And I say, strangely enough, eventually I ended up back at PwC.
Yeah.
Totally bizarre. Yeah.
Exactly. What did you learn from that situation? What in hindsight, what did you learn from that?
In hindsight, what I should have done is not spend the redundancy money so quickly.
Yeah.
And what I should have done is put a bit of it. I mean, I did pay off a bit of the mortgage and stuff, but I should have put more of it away, and I should have got back into job seeking much earlier than
much
having
earlier.
6 months off.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Okay. How important is networking to you, and having that network of people? How important is that to you?
I think, yeah, it is pretty important to me. I mean, I've always got, when I was doing the global stuff, I had teams all over the world. So networking was really important. You know, you had to keep on top of these guys, and more importantly, on top of their managers, and on top of their IT directors. So networking was really important in those days.
Okay. And what approach did you take to that? How did you approach individuals or teams and keeping abreast?
We tried to do the global stuff as a project, you know, massive project. But it eventually proved to be difficult because the Australians, God bless them, didn't want to go at the same pace as the rest of the world. So they charged off on their own. So it was down to me to get in contact with the IT director from Australia and try and entice him to give me stuff. So he then, you know, I got all their documentation, and I had a completely different problem with the US, because the US were great at talking the talk, but were absolutely crap at walking the walk. I'd end up every 6 weeks jumping a plane to Florida, and going across and try to motivate the team.
That personal touch.
You know, it was hands-on all the way through.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's important. The whole networking thing, it is important. Did your network come naturally to you through your work, or did you attend any network? You get these various networking events.
No, it was all purely natural.
Pure natural. Yeah, fine, cool. How does someone keep progressing upwards in their career, in your view? You know, you said you've had teams and stuff. How does someone keep on leveling up? And what I mean by that is, it might not necessarily mean promotion all the time, but it might mean they want additional piece of responsibility, but it's not necessarily a promotion, you know, and they might be happy to utilize different skills rather than it just being pure promotion. What's your advice there around people
I think
leveling up?
Looking for the opportunities is what's important. I think if you keep your eye on the horizon and you've got your own personal goals, and you can see, well, that might help me here, or this might help me there. And you try and make your progress through, you know, watching the horizon and aligning yourself with projects that would help you achieve it. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so keep your eyes on the horizon. And for me, there's a mixture of that, in a sense of the networking side comes into it. Who do you network? How do you rationalize who you keep informed, and who do you keep sweet? In a sense of who do you keep on the good side of you to help with that. So no, it's fine. Sometimes a person can take stretched assignments, so they might be pigeonholed to be the ABC expert of a particular job. In your view, is it a good idea for somebody they might think they can do X, Y, Z. Is it a good idea for them to take that stretched piece of work or assignment to try and demonstrate they've got that ability?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, global IT comes to mind because when you were project managing that, most of the stuff I was project management, I hadn't a Scooby how it worked. You know, I did not know. So I had to rely on the expertise of the people I was bringing in to deliver that bit. You know, we stuck in a global firewall into the UK, and at the time, the Danish firm had a guy called Pete Lund, who was an expert in this particular firewall. So I brought Pete over to the UK, and together, well, not together, he did it, and I managed it. Right? We built this thing. So I think that's an example of stretch. You know, I knew nothing about firewalls, but I knew somebody that did. So therefore, you could work with them and
work with them. So for me, that's you looking at what are the right resources that are available to you, understanding that you've not got the skills, but who has got the skills, and how do you tap into that? how you just tap into that. And you might not become the expert, but you might have a wide view of the topic, but not a depth. You might not have depth because you've got your subject matter expert. Yeah. So you're tapping into that to try and learn more. Yeah. All right. Okay. Out of all your experience and all the people you've came across in your career and stuff, what are the gotchas? What are the real things you should not be doing? Have you got any examples that you've came up with that you've seen that you just think that was a really stupid move? You shouldn't have done that.
Aye, yes, classic. PwC decided to implement a global version of SAP,
right? Okay,
the global financial system, and it was an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah.
So the idea was it would work across the world, it would standardize the processes and blah, 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 blah. So, of course, the Germans, who are obviously the country that's responsible for SAP, they went off and did their own thing. The Americans went off and did their own thing. The French had a half-arsed attempt at it, and then they just forgot right off the go.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sitting here in the middle trying to project management a lot of this. I was running various sub-projects at that particular time, and it was just a disaster. I mean, no gotcha. So to me, the gotcha is don't try and impose on other cultures stuff that's going to try and make it uniform, because believe you me, it ain't going to work.
It isn't going to work. So I've came across that myself. So understanding the cultural differences is quite big.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, it is quite important, isn't it? Yeah.
And I mean, the team that were doing it were TCS, Tata Consulting.
Yeah.
And of course, the Indian culture is different to the UK.
It is, yeah.
So these guys were terrified of me. You know, I could just say hello to them and I could see them shaking, right? And they used to have to come in every single day and give me a list of the major outages that they had or major problems to try and fix. And they were just, talk about rabbits in headlights. They were just, I was trying to be as nice as possible, but you know, it's the cultural thing. The Ouija speaking glottal stop Liz Ouija.
Yeah.
Versus a poor little Indian chap trying to
speak. And it's interesting. I've got an experience there. I worked for Xerox for a time, and we had an Indian team. And we originally looked at how do we outsourced it. And we were like, how do we bring it? It was like 80-20, 80% was outsourced, 20% insourced. How do we flip that around? You know, is there savings to be done? Should we do it? And I went out to India, and it was, the cultural difference was so unbelievable. I learned that they would always say yes. So on the phone, and when we've done video calls, they would always say yes. But then when they put the phone down, they'd be like, no, we're not doing that. So it was always yes, but then we'd be like, no, we're not doing that. And there'll be some reason for it, and there'll be good reasons for it. But we also realized that the ethic of what they put into it was so immense, you know, because, you know, for example, it was Tata, funnily enough, as you said, you know, they would buy a piece of equipment that Xerox would make, and they would strip it down and reverse engineer it and put it back together to learn it at their own cost, you know. And you were suddenly saying, I could never move away from this, because the upset of what they do for us, it would just be too big, and you'd be spending more money, and it would just be a disaster, from ruining a 10 to 15-year relationship to save a few extra quid every year, you know. So you started to realise, and that was a cultural thing. So yeah, it's interesting you raised Indians, and I've got my own experiences there. No, that's brilliant, Iain. Thank you very much. 10 questions, that was 10 answers, so that's brilliant. What we'll do is we'll get this released, as I've said to you, over the next coming weeks. But thank you very much.
Yeah, cool. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers, Iain.
See ya. Bye now.
Hi. So before you go, thanks very much for watching the video. I truly hope that you enjoyed it and you got that nugget of information for you to take forward within your career. If you like what you've seen, please like and share it, because it really does help. In the intro video, I talked about taking action. Well, at 2 Saints, we offer a career coaching program. The programme is designed to help individuals truly learn about themselves, truly have a deeper understanding of their strengths and their weaknesses. It'll allow you to make the right goals for you to take forward into your career, to allow you to get that job that you've always wanted, seek that higher salary that you've quite truly deserve. If you think career coaching is something that you'd like to learn more about, follow the link that's on the page, sign up to our webinar, which we run on a Tuesday and a Thursday, which gives you a good overview of the programme and why career coaching is good for you. Cheers now, bye.